Welcome to La Taverna Friuli Wines, the definitive podcast on wines from Friuli, Venezia Giulia. I'm your host, Wayne Young. Hey, Friuli wine fans, welcome to a special Vin Italy Week Best of edition of La Taverna Friuli Wines. Wayne Young here. Gonna bring you back to October 2021 with a dear friend, someone who I literally watched grow up in and around the vineyards and around the world, my dear friend, Mattia Scarbolo from the Scarbolo Winery in Friuli Grave, specialists in Pinot Grigio and not only, or non solo, as they say in Italian. We're approaching our 100th episode of La Taverna. I'm super excited about that. Who should we bring back for the 100th episode? Should it be Mattia? A lot has happened at the Scarbolo Winery in these last 2.5 years. Thinking about maybe bringing back some of our earlier guests. What do you think? Should we bring back some early guests, getting an update on what's going on with those guys and gals? Let me know. Send me a message on the socials, Wayne Grape on Facebook and on Instagram, La Taverna Podcast on Instagram, La Taverna Friuli on Facebook. Let me know what you think. Who do you want to hear from? Might even put a little poll attached to this. Poll as in P-O-L-L. Not pole as in like a stripper pole. Anyway. We're also closing in on 10,000 listens to La Taverna. Wow. I am really excited about that. Thank you, everyone, for your support. And we're going to go back to this Clubhouse edition, so you'll be hearing me talk about pinging people in and maybe even get some comments toward the end there from the audience. But back in the days when we used to do the podcast live on Clubhouse, I haven't left Clubhouse completely. Did you know that La Taverna is a proud sponsor of the Italian Wine Podcast? Just did a great podcast with Tamara Podversic. Got another one coming up soon. That has just been published on the Italian Wine Podcast feed. So do get in there and listen to that. It's a great conversation with a lovely, lovely person. And tomorrow I am going to be in Vin Italy, hanging out. And then a new episode will be up next week. So enjoy, in the meantime, this special best of episode with Mattia Scarbolo. So, Mattia, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm quite happy to be here.
All right.
Ciao, everyone.
We're going to get super formal in a second after I get, okay, Bridget's come in, Vanessa's come in. Great. All right. Hi, Bridget. Hi, Vanessa. Welcome. If you guys want to come up on stage, do feel free to raise your hand, and I'll bring you up if you want to if you want to ask some questions to Mattia. But we're going to get into it full bore in just a minute, so give us a second here. Let the room populate just a little bit. And waiting for Natalie. Don't know where she is. Nat, where is my co-host, my darling co-host? Where are you? Okay, so we're just waiting for Nat to get in. There she is. Hello, darling Natalie.
Hello, my darling Wayne. Well, and hello to everybody from London.
Hello to everybody from London. I hope everybody's listening.
Everybody. Yep. How's it going? How's everything over there?
It's hot as hell here, Nat. How's everything going in beautiful downtown London?
Tell me it's beautiful weather.
It's beautiful. I'm here with my dad, Charlie, listening. It's beautiful.
Hello, Charlie. How are you?
Hi. It's actually, I was telling Natalie about an hour ago what a wonderful weather we have. She said, well, it's great. I said, but it's beautiful. I said, you can do everything you want. I said, when it's hot, you got to hide.
Exactly. That's what I did all day. All day. All right. Well, so happy that Charlie's here. So good to hear from you. Nat, are you enjoying your time in London?
I am indeed off to West London this evening. Hopefully
Lucky
see
you.
what wines they've got. Be interesting.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Let us know. So
I will.
I want to introduce to everyone as the room is populating. My favorite ex-wife, Vanessa, is here. She's and Bridget, who I think it might be a first-time listener. Bridget, I'm really happy to see you here. Please do come up on stage if you want to ask a question. Same for you, Vanessa. If you want to come up and ask a question, please feel free. But I think we're going to get started. I do want to introduce a man who I've known since he was a child. Hello, Sue Tolson. Welcome to the room. Mattia Scarbolo is here with us this evening. Thanks for being here, buddy.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Good to see you. Mattia is sort of like the third generation
Third generation.
Third generation
Yeah.
of Scarbolos making wine in the Grave. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, you've had a very wild and sort of varied experience all over the world. So tell us a little bit about your story, how you sort of started off in the wine business, left the wine. I'll leave that up to you.
Rock and roll. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm Mattia. I'm working at my family's winery called Scarbolo. And it's been a long path, like a boomerang. So, when you grow up, at least in Friuli, in the countryside, and you go to high school, and everyone, you confront yourself with the other guys and the girls, and what does your family do? I'm a farmer. And it doesn't really ring a sexy bell. So I said, okay, screw this. I'm going as far away as possible. And I did everything I could to get into banking. Maybe I was watching too much Wall Street. But eventually, and surprisingly, I got in. I started working in M&A in New York for a few years. Enough time to realize it was not what I was meant to do, not what I was meant to be.
What made you realize that? What was there like a moment, or was it just a gradual kind of feeling?
I think it was gradual. Then you have that epiphany, that moment when you realize the only reason why I'm doing this is for the money. There's no excitement when you wake up in the morning. It's just like, although you're in the most exciting city in the world, you should be like, fuck yes, I'm in heaven. And
Rock and roll,
yeah. And instead, I was just, doing all those things that when you're unhappy, you do. Just this very plain repetition of a daily circle. And then magic happened. My younger sister, her name is Lara. She was supposed to be here with us today, but she's having a few days off before we start with the harvest, and she deserves that. So she joined as the winemaker. And I figured if there's one chance, I have to do something that I've been connected to my entire life. And throughout the years that I was in the US, I was starting to reconnect with wine. I said, let's go back and let's do this together.
Well, you were always sort of still connected with the winery, because even when you were working in finance in the States, you were always I would always see you pop up at like events and going around and doing work with and things. So you never really left. You were always sort of kind of connected.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, because the US was our biggest market. It still is, although it's a smaller percentage now. So of course it made more sense for me to attend events and be the ambassador of the winery when I could. But at the time, full disclosure, I was being a fucking fraud. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just repeating what my father was sending me messages with all the data.
Oh my God.
And actually that was one of the main drives I had when I came back, and I had this little epiphany process. Because, when you enter a family business, I think inevitably there's this, there's this contrast between generations. One generation, especially generation before me, which is my father and my mother, who started the business seriously. My grandfather was a classic farmer, so it was a completely different way of viewing the wine project that we have. So you enter, and of course you have to be able to take what your parents did and make it yours. And there's a lot of contrast happening, and contrast is amazing contrast is fantastic because it lets you grow, it lets you challenge, and we grow through challenge and through difficulties.
Without a doubt.
And I was reminiscent of my time when I was in the US, just being like, I don't want to say fake, but not owning what I was doing, not being 100% part of it. I said, I want to know everything I can. I want to do something meaningful if I can, because I saw myself when I was doing things not the right way, and not in a way that was that I didn't add any value for anyone. I said, I want to change this. And thankfully with my sister, we're very much aligned on this, and it's the most fun thing ever.
It's amazing that you and your sister actually have formed this kind of dynamic duo at the winery, because first of all, I never thought ever that your sister would get involved with the winery. I thought maybe you would, because you had that kind of killer instinct, right? Mm-hmm. But Lotta always seemed like, very shy and very timid. She didn't strike me as somebody who would be like a cellar rat or an animal or of the winery or whatever. So I was really impressed and really happy when she jumped in there. And I think it's so lucky for your dad and your mom that both of you have inherited this passion for the winery. So very often you have, I know wineries now where they're saying, I have 3 children and none of them are at all interested in being involved in the winery. So I think, Valter, your father, kind of won the lottery with you too, I have to say. Either that or he brainwashed you really well from a young age.
I think he's regretting every single day the fact that I came back.
No. Okay.
Because we're both, okay. Let's do a little zodiac astrology, I think. Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Deep dive. Both Arises. Whenever we have a discussion,
the 2 rams.
It's
bam.
Mike Tyson in the ring.
Okay.
No. So me and my sister, when we were younger, a lot of fights. Classic Bart Simpson and Lisa, neck choke and arguing.
Oh, yeah.
And we got back, and of course we had to find our alignment, our balance. And now it's, now I was talking about this with a friend the other day. It's when you realize what being siblings really means, not really means, sorry, but like the deepest connection you can have with someone is like, we're the same. We think of something, we were thinking of the name for a new wine. We heard somebody say something, we looked at each other in the eye and was like, oh my God, we got this. And so there's this alignment in vision.
That's very cool.
But this meant that now it's me and her against, so open and close bracket, it's a constructive contrast, but against our parents. So that's why I said my dad now is like, oh man, I got 2 enemies in the winery, they're taking over.
So yeah, it's kind of like you guys have ganged up. Mm-hmm. Which I think is important, because you feel like you have an ally. She feels like she has an ally in the cellar. No,
100%.
Cool. So so you handle sort of more the marketing side. Lotta hands the analogical side, or clear that up for me.
So the way it works, Lotta, is everybody works except for me, I would say. So how does it work?
Some things never change.
You gotta stay true to your DNA. No, so how does it work? So our father he takes care of the agronomy, so he's in the vineyards, and that's also because besides the science, it requires a lot of actual experience. So
yeah, because he's had how many years?
Decades, 40 years. Excuse me.
40 years. So he's had 40 harvests. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he knows something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So he focuses on that.
He's also a trained agronomist, isn't he?
He is.
Did he study agronomy?
He studied agronomy,
so he knows
not
his
enology. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He knows. And that's what he likes to do, and he's focusing on that. Our mother, she is now the actual boss. She decides who gets paid. She takes care of logistics.
Okay. So she's the actual boss.
Gotta treat her well.
Yeah. Yeah, but mom always gets treated well here in Italy. So.
Exactly. And my sister, she's the winemaker. So she's got she spends time in the most of her time in the winery, of course. What I do is, of course, technically I help with sales and marketing, but I like to think more as I help with strategy, because me coming from a completely different background, let's call it luck of having a different point of view to help us, and having worked so when I was in banking, M&A, you help companies either acquire other companies or companies sell. And of course, when you have
M&A is mergers and acquisitions, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because I'm completely stupid when it comes to
no, sorry, it's
it literally took me 15 minutes to figure that out.
it's just a douchebag acronym to say, oh yeah, M&A.
Yeah. Okay. No,
But
okay. Now I understand.
Mm-hmm. But what that helped, what helped in what I do now, from my experience, was, when you have to sell a company, you have to understand the business. You have to understand people that have actually made the business grow from 0 and 100 million, 30 million. Our focus was from businesses from 25 to 250 millions. So most of the time, it's, especially in the US, that there's a little bit more of a structured economy, if you will. Okay. You see in that bracket a lot of companies that were started from scratch, okay, instead of the super huge multi-billion corporations.
Okay.
And it was unbelievably educational to understand how did this person grow, what was the strategy, what did he do, or she, how did they structure everything, accomplish, what was the vision. And I try to bring that back. So I'm not in any way getting in the way of what the rest of the team does, but I help them see in a way that is more holistic, let's say.
Yeah, that's a huge leap here in Friuli, because there's not a lot of people who have that kind of 360 degree vision, sort of willing to look at everything from the top, literally and maybe figuratively and maybe literally, to sort of see, well, where can we go with this? How do we structure this? What's the next strategy? Where are we going? What's the potential and things like that? So you had a real advantage seeing that and bringing that experience back to the winery. So talking about the winery, tell us a little bit about, obviously you're in the Grave, right? And we'll talk more about the ups and downs of Grave as we go forward. But just tell me a little bit about, vineyards and wines and things like that, just so for people who are listening can have an idea of what Scarbolo is all about wine-wise.
Absolutely. So yeah, briefly, our grandfather moved from, and this explains our history. Sometimes I think it's so boring to speak about history, because it's like, we're a 100 generation winery that is being like, come on, who are you? Why you're doing this? Is this who you are? Is really who did something before you? What are you doing? Okay?
I like that.
But at least I don't want to say only in our case, but in my case, I can see like how everything fell into place. So our grandfather was a tenant farmer that was tenant farming until the 50s in Friuli. So he was working the nobleman's land. And then the laws changed with the Riforma Agraria. And he moved from the Collio, from Cividale, where the land was a little bit too expensive for him to buy, to the closest place where he could have good land to do farming the way he did. And so he started planting different crops and 1 hectare of vineyard. Then my father grew up. He had a little experience outside doing other stuff. Kind of like the way I did, but still in Friuli and still kind of related. And then he went back to his father, and he decided to continue with the winery. But we only had, with the winemaking, so focus on moving on from bulk wines to bottled wines, communicate this philosophy, and start making wine.
When did you sort of make that transition from bulk wine to bottled wines? When did you start bottling wines?
It was 1982.
1982. Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
yeah.
I mean, for me, it doesn't sound like a long time ago, but it was a while ago. 40 years we're talking. Right?
Yeah.
That's why you said your dad has 40 years of experience.
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, it's starting to come together. Okay.
So
go ahead.
So he did that, but the thing is, he only had at the time 1.7, let's say 2 hectares of vineyard. And there was a bad reputation for Grave. So Grave is the biggest appellation in Friuli. It has historically served as the, sourcing area for the Triveneto wines that are, very cheap and bulk wines that are sold at 0.5 euros.
Okay, we'll talk more about that too.
Mm-hmm. And he said, you know what? I think there's a lot of potential in Grave. And I'm going to, instead of, I have so much flexibility that I can just sell this one hectare and move somewhere else, move back to Colli Orientale, Colli. Said, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to show the other side. And that is being a little bit of the main drive, the main, the common, the base identity of what we do is to be a little bit champions of the underdogs and show the other side of the coin. At the end of the day, we're talking about wine, so something we're supposed to enjoy. There's no need to drink wine. So if we enjoy, we might as well do something that has, do it with a purpose, do it with an ideal, communicate something that goes beyond just chugging a glass one after the other. And this eventually realized, besides the appellation, on one variety that is quite representative of Friuli, which is Pinot Grigio, which is our main production now. And we've moved on from there. We continued building on that.
So you actually kind of built on that whole idea of championing the underdog, not just as a region, because obviously Grave has always had this kind of reputation as, flatland wines, bulk, lots of mechanical harvesting, things like that. So not so much known for quality, more for quantity. Mm-hmm. But your dad sort of wanted to prove him wrong.
Yeah.
And then instead of choosing, say, okay, we're going to plant Pinot Noir. No, Pinot Grigio, which again is sort of an underdog grape, right? Yes. So, and sort of, I love the idea that you guys have the tenacity to sort of say, we can make great things in a place that's not necessarily known for great things. And I think that's unique, and that's kind of your, unique product of value that you're getting in your place, because there aren't a lot of people who champion those types of things the way you guys do. So compliments on that. So I was going to say, Natalie, you've sort of popped in once or twice. Did you have a question for Mattia, or are you just enjoying the lovely conversation?
Wayne, was that to me?
Yes, that was to you, darling.
Yeah, I'm sort of, Mattia, hello, buongiorno, buonasera.
Ciao, Natalie.
Ciao, ciao. I'm very interested. I'm sitting here listening with my father, and I'm talking to him at the same time about Grave. And I have a question for you, which is probably jumping forward, but unfortunately I have to leave before this evening.
Jump.
It's a question, okay, because it was a question from my dad. No Cabernet. We were looking on your website. We were looking at where you distribute, because we're close to Marylebone, which is interesting. I'm curious to go and get a bottle. No Cabernet. May I ask why? My dad.
That's actually...
There used to be Cabernet.
There used to be. Actually, just today, I have a friend. She's a sommelier in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And she does this, remote tasting now, Zoom tasting sessions.
Okay.
Right.
And she mentioned among her favorite wines, the Scarbolo Cabernet. And I have been waiting so long to tell her, but today I finally told her, I'm so sorry, but this is the last Cabernet you're going to drink, because we're not making the wine anymore. And that is, we used to make
Cabernet Franc or Cabernet Sauvignon?
70% Cabernet Franc, which is a little bit more representative of what's planted in Friuli when it comes to Cabernet. 30% Sauvignon, because it gave that elegance that the Franc has, that bite that it needs.
Okay.
So this is actually, it's a good question, because it fits into the entire, going back to the roots that my sister and I did a little over a year ago. So COVID happens. We do, I would say, 90% of our sales at on-trade, so restaurants, et cetera. And by May 2020, so in the first 5 months of the year, we were selling 95% less compared to the first 5 months of 2019. So I don't want to say in the brink of bankruptcy, but seriously considering, hey, we might have to close up shop. So I said, you know what? If we do it our way, and we're gonna just be happy doing what we enjoy. And so we said, what are we gonna do? Let's go back to the roots and let's focus. Because over time, like our father had another company, and like then some situation. There's a lot of things that happen in one's life that get into the professional aspect. We lost our soul a little bit with time, I would say. And I said, let's go back to the roots and let's go back to what our father did that made him happiest, and that we see an alignment with, because of course we grew up seeing that excitement and et cetera, et cetera. And so I said, let's go back to Pinot Grigio and Grave. And, sorry, please.
No, nothing. Sorry, Mattia. So I'm just wondering, so you've gone for the kind of almost less is more approach. So you've gone down to sort of the essence of what you do.
Exactly. So for
stripping down, unplugged.
Exactly. So we said, there were 2 wines that we were making that we were buying grapes for, which was just to serve the market. So we don't need that. If our goal is that of championing Grave and championing the way, we don't buy grapes, because in order to buy grapes, and this is not how do you say, being arrogant or just
insulting or whatever.
Not insulting, but just like pumping ourselves up. Let's put it that way. There's no way we can buy grapes from other vine growers in Grave at the same quality that we do, and even for whatever price, like. So we said, let's go back to being 100% estate grown. In our soil, Cabernet and Ribolla they don't thrive. Let's cut those out.
See.
And let's also cut those out, because one problem of Friuli, and this is what problem I have with when I talk to other people in the industry, but I think it's a source of improvement, if you will, with time. We make too many varieties in Friuli. You look at other appellations around the world, and everybody can think of a representative wine, a representative variety. Said, we have a problem that nobody knows Friuli, despite the fact that it's the OG white wine region in Italy.
I like that. The OG white wine. Original gangsta. I like it.
And I think in order to make it more understanding for everyone around the world, when there's so much happening, offering so many new appellations, new areas, new wines, is to choose one variety, one wine that represents us, which can even not, we can even say that it's not Pinot Grigio. I'm 100% fine with that. But making 13 wines and then going around the world saying, who are you? Like, who are you? What's your drive?
I totally agree with you.
Interesting.
Yeah. Nat, did you want to ask something else before I comment?
No, go for it. I've got lots of questions in my head which I can't ask tonight, but go for it. Thank you, Mattia.
Thank
Grazie.
you.
Well,
makes sense.
Nat, jump in if you got a question. Just jump in, and then
No,
I'll talk more when you have to go.
Unfortunately, yeah, exactly. No, I thought the comment about history was interesting. About the sometimes history's so boring, because sometimes history is so boring, but. Maybe it's about just saying the right thing at the right moment where it's relevant, rather than going on and on and on. I work with different wineries and I help them write their stuff in English. And I tell them, and as you know, Mattia, because you lived in New York, so you're fluent in English and culturally you've got it as well. So often, I don't know if it's a cultural thing in Italy, people tend to really go on about the details of the old village and how high it is above sea level and great-great-great-grandfather. And it's too much initially. It can be relevant at the time. You take somebody around your land, you talk to them about your family, it's relevant. I don't know how seductive it is when we go on and on about it on our websites. Does that sound reasonable? Does that make sense?
I completely agree. And actually, I'm sorry, I misspoke. History, first of all, history, I was so bad at school. History was the only subject that I was actually good at. I love history because history has meaning. History puts things in a context and it helps. It explains why things are the way they are. The problem with this is my opinion, of course. The problem with wineries that rely on history is it's just like I was saying before. Is that what defines you? Like, of course, history is important because it sets the basis for how you got here. But then when you're selling yourself and introducing yourself, you're talking about like the history, the background. Okay, what are you doing now? What defines your daily job? Does your great-great-grandfather define your daily job, or does your vision, your desire to communicate an idea, to challenge something, whatever you do? That's why I'm not that big of a fan of starting off with history, because sometimes it just dies there, and I say like, okay, this person didn't find the fire that burns inside them.
So they're constantly trying to sort of stand upon the shoulders of giants in that way. It's sort of like, well, yeah, the reason that we're great is because of everything we did in the past, and see, we're still doing that, rather than talking about the present and the future and how you can become even better building upon that, rather than just sort of, building upon.
Actually, I'm sorry.
No, go.
Regarding the shoulders of giants, I want to get a new tattoo, and it's actually about this. So I figured, okay, because I think everything that me and my sister are able to do now is because the giants that were our parents, our grandparents, did a lot of work. But if you just rely on that, it's like, okay, lucky you because you had somebody else do the job for you. Now that's your turn. When your nephews or whoever comes next, somebody buys the wine. What did you do? So standing on the shoulders of giants is fantastic. It's where we are now as a society is because we stand on the shoulders of giants that did before us.
That's who we are as a species, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's our responsibility to do our part and continue growing.
We need to become the giants of the people of the next generation. We can't just sort of like, yeah, okay, they were really great and we're all going to be little now because they made the giants a long time. No, you have to become a giant too. And you're on that road. I can see that is becoming true for you as far as your role in the winery and where you want this to go. So Pinot Grigio, often sort of dismissed as kind of not the most incredibly complex wine, sort of, find it in every Italian restaurant. Why Pinot Grigio? What is it about Pinot Grigio that has stirred your passions at Scarbolo? Tell me where that sort of came from.
So it started with our father. So he was going to the US, which at the time, again, was I would say almost our sole market. We had a lucky relationship with a very successful restaurateur in the US that helped us get the way in. And it was quite, I would say, pivotal for the winery at the time. So he was traveling a lot to the US and was going to New York. And he was witnessing, more than in restaurants, in stores in particular, the infamous white wall of Pinot Grigio.
Oh, yeah. Been there, seen that. Yep.
And it's this, he got, I don't want to say scared, he got, let's say shocked, to use an exaggeration. I said, how is it possible that one of the handful of white varieties with a dark skin is perceived as the lightest and is meaningful and just something to chug on a golf course on a Sunday late morning when you start early.
Okay.
And he said, I'm going to show you. So in the first year, early 2000, he started working on XL, so extra large, which is the second, sorry, I'm using one. So we make 4 Pinot Grigios. The second Pinot Grigio that he did was the XL. The first one was classic contemporary interpretation, so no maceration,
fresh stainless steel. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
The second one was back to the roots, so back to before the 50s, fully macerated, so fermentation on the skins for about 2 weeks, and then élevage in oak for about 2 years.
2 years. Wow. Okay.
So he started bringing it out, and he was, I think, out of 7 days in the market, 5 days he was explaining to every single person what that was, because nobody knew.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny that you're saying like this is sort of going back to the roots, this Ramato, but nobody knew anything about it.
No.
It was completely forgotten.
Completely
practically.
forgotten.
Yeah.
Thanks to.
Now you talk to a lot of people and they understand that, but your dad was totally one of the first people to do that.
No, he was one of the very few. Like
if not the first in the Grave, maybe somebody in Collio or something.
In the Grave, yes, but in Friuli there were some. In Friuli, luckily there were some visionaries. I would say Gravner above all, and a couple others, but Gravner is and worldwide nowadays.
Did Gravner work with Pinot Grigio?
No, but he started
with the maceration.
With the maceration. Then was Radicon with the CV Pinot Grigio, and there's another Vidi Romance. He doesn't do maceration, but he does he harvests and vinifies in a way that it retains this pale amber color. And he said, I'm gonna go back to before the 50s. So in the 50s, Santa Margherita made Pinot Grigio famous worldwide because they started doing very, very early morning harvest, super fast pressing. So there was no time for the skin to donate the color and the polyphenols and the tannins to the juice. And so we went one day from one day to the other, from orange Pinot Grigio or Ramato Pinot Grigio to white Pinot Grigio. And it became a worldwide sensation because Pinot Grigio, just like Merlot, are super balanced. They're very easy for everyone to enjoy because they don't have these very, I would say, polarizing traits, just like Sauvignon does, for example.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that, polarizing traits.
Yeah.
Your English is excellent.
I prepared.
Good for you.
And that.
Hang on a second, Nat. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say I second that.
Jump in.
I second that. Your English is impeccable.
Thank you.
He lived in the United States. Come on. Plus, he's had 4 glasses of wine and 2 beers. So the prefrontal lobe is nicely relaxed now. So the English is just coming out nice and easy.
Fantastic. I shall keep listening.
No, thank you. It's at least one thing I learned. but yeah. So there was this. And and I recently met this person. She's a wonderful lady, meant for great things. She's a sommelier in London at Medlar, however you say it, in Chelsea. She's working hard to become a master sommelier. Excuse me.
Nat wants to say something.
No, I don't. I'm listing Medlar in Chelsea. That's interesting. I'm here for a while, so I could check it out. I don't know it.
Go say hi.
Absolutely, they have a very fun wine list.
What's her name? The song?
Melania.
Mm-hmm.
Melania. But
go to Medlar and talk to Melania. It's not this Melania Trump. It's not her.
No, it's a much more Italian Battistone last name.
Yeah, but still, yeah. She's that's your girl. Go talk to her.
Okay, cool.
But so we were talking, and of course, a person that has, and one thing that is wonderful, I think, in cities that don't have a centuries-long culture of wine. Okay, I'm going to make a wild parallel here. London, yes, it has a centuries-long culture of wine, but not winemaking. Or Singapore, for example. So places that have, for different reasons, exposure to wines from all over the world. They're really, let's say, spoiled in a good way. Like there's everything available. Okay. And this reconnects to my thinking of how does Friuli stand out in a place where people can have everything from everywhere. So we're talking about the element that would make Friuli. Because I asked her as a winemaker, I asked her, what do you think that is preventing Friuli from standing out the way I think it deserves? It could to shine the way it can. And she said, like, there's not an element that is. A wine that is pivotal that people can think of. So I said, okay, how about Pinot Grigio? We think of Pinot Grigio. That's why we're also focusing on Pinot Grigio, to have something that represents us historically with the culture of Ramato wine, etc., etc. And it just made me think a lot about how the concept of Pinot Grigio went from becoming this I would say it had a lot of it had such a different expression in until 70 years ago, and nowadays people think of it so differently. We have a huge chance in our region to communicate something new, going back to the roots. I like to think that, and there's some movement, you see, like with natural wines, that people connect to orange wines a lot, for good or bad, but that there's a common association. Like there's an interest towards orange wine now, and I think
There's a huge interest in orange wine. So you make 2 Ramato Pinot Grigios now, right?
Yeah.
The one that has like long maceration and long time in barrique or in wood, I don't know. And
It's,
that's the XL.
Yeah, in Tonneau we use the
In
500
tonneau,
liters.
500 liter tonneau. And then you have another that's a little fresher.
Yes. So that was meant to close.
And is that just called Ramato?
It's called Il Ramato.
Il Ramato, okay.
And that's a little game of words that our father did, because Il Ramato, then you, instead of separating Il, which is the article, and Ramato, you do ILR and then space Amato. And Amato in Italian means the loved one. So there was a little joke on that, because it's our loved wine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And IRL in real life.
Yeah.
So
It's
in real
inverted.
life. Exactly.
ILR.
Oh, it's ILR.
Yeah, but we could do something about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And then you have other Pinot Grigios as well.
Yeah. So we have the Ramato is the one that was meant to bridge the gap between contemporary style Pinot Grigio, so vinified in white, to XL. Because of course, somebody who's been used to drinking very light and fresh, even our fresh Pinot Grigio, let's call it fresh, that does only stainless steel. We do batonnage for an extended time, so on a sur lit. It does have a weight that when you think of the cheap Pinot Grigio that unfortunately most people think of, they would not associate with. And nevertheless, even with that vinification, it's a huge gap to the XL. So we said, how do we welcome people to old school macerated skin fermented wines? We do with cold maceration. So Il Ramato has nothing different from the Pinot Grigio, but 24 hours at 10 degrees of maceration. So we extract the color, a little bit of polyphenols, a little bit of tannins, but it still maintains this very approachable identity. You start seeing, if I have to speak about, of course, let's talk about aromas. Usually with white Pinot Grigio, you think of apple, pear, honey. Even with Il Ramato, you start getting a little bit of these red berries, red fruits, just a tiny bit, but enough to welcome you to a little bit more the tannic expression. And the 4th Pinot Grigio that we do is called the Beyond Pinot.
Okay.
And it's an ode to Pinot Gris. So very little to no residual sugar, 0.7 grams per liter now. But we do, the current release is 2017, so there's a little bit of tertiary aspect. We do part fermentation for 50% of the grapes and part élevage in big barrels, 2,000 liter in oak, and the rest in stainless steel. So you start getting a little bit this more balanced, this more, let's use the word for simplification, complex aspect of the variety that usually you do not think of from Italian Pinot Grigio. Usually you associate to either Oregon or
Alsace.
Yeah.
So you have 4. So you have the fresh, let's say that more sort of, I don't know, what's the word we can use for that? The stainless steel for fresh style.
I would say contemporary.
Contemporary.
Style.
That's a good word. So contemporary Pinot Grigio, stainless steel, fresh, drinkable, bingo. Then you have Beyond Pinot, which has some wood and some time on the lees. Then you have Il Ramato, which is sort of the entry level Ramato, and then the XL, which is the full blown
it's the
orange wine. So
big
those are
bad
your
boy.
4. The big bad boy, exactly, exactly. I mean, one of the things that I think people don't realize about Pinot Grigio is, it's a cousin of Pinot Nero, Pinot Noir, which is like the noblest grape variety that exists. I mean, it's one of the top 3, 2. When you talk about the great red grape varieties of the world, you're talking about Pinot Nero and you're talking about probably Cabernet Sauvignon. Those are probably the greatest. So Pinot Noir. So I mean, it's hugely important. There's a noble aspect to Pinot Grigio that people don't understand. They think that it's just kind of like light and easy, but it actually has a lot of stuff. Nat, did you have a question?
I do. Whilst I've still got.
Nat can't hear you, darling. Natalie. Yeah, Nat's out of range, I believe, unfortunately. But anyway, Nat, if you want, send me a text with your questions, and I'll tell it to I'll ask it to Mattia. I want to take a minute now, just sort of to reset the room here on Clubhouse, because I have a lot of people listening. Well, 5 people listening, but anyway, I have Sue and I have Ghislaine. And I know that those ladies are super curious about wine. I'm shocked that they haven't raised their hands yet to come up and ask a question. So I am inviting those people up to kind of sort of interact with Mattia and ask him a question. So it's not just him and I talking. But in the meantime, I just wanted to sort of reset the room and let everybody get Sue Tolson. There she is. Sue, how are you? Here she comes. There. Hi, Sue Tolson. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Really, really good. Good to see you here. Thanks for coming.
Sounds like you've been drinking all afternoon.
Does it? I feel completely. I wish I was drinking all. I wish I was drinking all afternoon. We started drinking about 45 minutes ago, an hour ago. Maybe we had a couple of beers because it's hot as heck here. Tell me, Sue, what do you have on your mind? You got a question for Mattia?
Well, I was actually wondering. I mean, obviously, Mattia, they make 4 different Pinot Grigios, of which I'm not sure if I tried all of them, but certainly I've tried them. Which of them are proved the most popular, and in which markets?
It's a fantastic question.
It is a good question. Ciao, Sue. It's good to hear your voice. We saw each other last time at
Friuli, in fact.
Yes. It was what was it? 2.5 years ago now. 2019.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Yes. Pretty much my last trip before damned COVID struck.
Yes. True that.
Oh, a year and a half then.
Yeah, exactly. It was early 2020. But that's a great question. So I would say, so we just started working in some new markets, and that's actually that's also the very exciting thing. I was talking, I'm not going to name names, but I was talking to some potential importers in new markets before Lara and I decided to, take everything off and go back naked and proud, if you will. Okay.
I like that.
And those people, and we do have, I don't want to say high prices, but higher prices than you would think of for Pinot Grigio and for Grave in particular. And at the time they were saying, sorry, it's either too expensive, or we don't care about Friuli, or we have too many Pinot Grigios, or whatever. And ever since we adjusted how we communicate what we do, and of course tweaked also some of the things that we do, so cutting some wines, but nothing revolutionary, two of those same people came back to us, no questions about prices, no question about anything. And with one we started working, with one we're waiting for the confirmation, hopefully soon. But that's nice to see how the things change depending on how you communicate what you do.
Yeah, you're communicating as sort of a perceived value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you think, if you sell it as Pinot Grigio, just as Pinot Grigio without any more explanation or positioning, then people will have a really different idea about the wines than they actually are.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
then it will be hard to sell them, and it will be hard to sell them also to the customers. If you're selling in the on-trade, then even though you get them into the restaurant, maybe then a customer orders it and has a completely different expectation about what they're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. And that's the point. Of course, many of these markets, so in most markets, let's to answer your question before I move on with the second answer to your question. Most markets are still interested in the white Pinot Grigio, so the contemporary style. Okay, and of course there was a little bit of a struggle throughout time to grow the volume of the Excel, of the Beyond Pinot. Il Ramato is a little bit easier. It works a lot in monopoly markets. So I would say Ontario, Quebec, Norway, Finland. It's very hot in the US because of course now there's an entire system of ecosystem of elements working in support of. And in fact, it was the US that made me think, hey, and not only the US, but even looking back at previous cases of unheard of before appellations, wines, styles, whatever you want, say, how did they make it? Why is it that 5 years ago nobody knew, nobody was thinking about Etna, and now every wine list has got an Etna Bianco or Rosso by the glass? So it's very arrogant. It would be very arrogant of us to think, hey, we're making a great wine, that's it, it's gonna sell. So we're doing a lot of things to, even in a little bit the more resistive markets, let's say China. China buys mostly white Pinot Grigio, the contemporary one. Said, how do I help our partners, so our importers, our clients, so the restaurants, help them create this chain of value that transmits all the way to the final customer. Because for somebody to try something new and spend their money on it, they have to see a certain type of value. Then they're ready to try and be excited, and maybe they buy it again if they like it or not, but at least they give it a chance. How do I help on my end get people to give a chance? So I would say definitely a lot of sales trips whenever they're possible, a lot of training, a lot of education and explanation. Now we're doing some other fun new projects. So we're trying to find the right partner with some restaurants. I think the perfect type of partner is in this sense is a bistro. So a restaurant that has an interest in doing a certain type of cuisine, but doesn't have this open and closed backyard stuck-upness or Michelin star restaurants, and say, we make for Pinot Grigio. How about we do a mini tasting menu with the 4 different expressions of Pinot Grigio? Because each one can be paired with a different type of food. For example, you would never pair the contemporary Pinot Grigio with an amatriciana pasta, but the Excel is amazing because it cuts with the tannins, it cleans the palate of this super fatty pasta. So there's so many different expressions. And then, so you give a chance to the importer to try something new because it has something to get excited the restaurant about. And if the restaurant is excited about it, then they put it in forefront to the final client. And everybody, it's a win-win-win. So there's where we can grow somehow what we're trying to do and communicate it, but it does take effort. It's not just by making a wine that it's going to be sold. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, Sue, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much, Matteo.
Yeah,
thank you.
I really like that idea of doing like a full-blown like Pinot Grigio start to finish tasting menu. And do you know how to make amatriciana?
I know how to eat a lot of amatriciana. I can make,
because now I'm really curious to try it. So I wanted you invite me over to your house and make me an amatriciana.
Okay, to be honest, it's not the amatriciana. It's most Roman pasta because there's guanciale.
Okay.
But my favorite is gricia. So I was in Tokyo. Gricia, so it's a matriciana bianca.
Okay. Okay.
La gricia. So I was in Tokyo for a dinner, and it was a dinner that we were launching the new label of Excel, because we changed the label a little bit, and the chef did a gricia, an amatriciana bianca with guanciale, but also with dried shiitake mushroom for whoever didn't eat the meat.
Okay.
And I tried it, and I was like, man, this is wild. I said, this is gonna screw up because I never tried that pairing, and it rocked my world. So now
it worked.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
It's amazing.
So there are 2 more folks up here on stage. There's Yelena and Rosella. By all means, Yelena, you came up on stage first, then we'll get to Rosella. Did you have a question for Mattia, Yelena?
Hi, Wayne. Hi, Mattia. I came a little bit later. Sorry.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming.
But I again enjoy listening to you. And I just like the idea what Matteo said about that tasting. I might have an idea. I'm from Holland and I have a friend who runs a very nice restaurant and he always looks for new wines. So as soon as I'm back to the Netherlands, I will try to introduce him that idea and I'll get back, Wayne, to you so you can get back to Matteo. Maybe
You know
we
how
can
to
do
find me. Yeah,
something.
that's fantastic. Are you
Yes.
present in Holland at all or no?
Yes, we
You
do. We are.
So
Thank
then-
you, first of all, for the consideration. It's very much appreciated.
Yelena, you definitely want to have Mattia there to conduct the wine dinner because he's a good-looking guy.
Actually,
I know
I'm
you're
going to
married,
be
but eye
in the
candy is
Netherlands.
always nice.
I just googled that pasta he was talking about. So I'm interested in that pasta with the pairing of his wine.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Mattia has, you can always direct message Mattia also on Instagram. He's Mattia Keller with a K.
Okay, I'm gonna Google immediately.
And then you can see how attractive he is as well. So. And I have an unblemished record of heterosexuality, but that's fine. He's a good-looking guy. What can I say?
It's the wine. It's the wine.
It's the wine. We are actually drinking. I just want to mention before I get to Rosella and Yelena, thank you. Did you have any other comments that you wanted to say?
No, that was it. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely set that up and get in touch with us. That would be so amazing. Can I come too? Mattia?
I'm going to be actually in the Netherlands. You are most welcome to come, but we're going to have fun if you come.
Okay,
So,
I understand, yeah.
But
I'm a little old for that kind of fun, but yeah.
No, just like I've only been to the Netherlands once. I'm going back.
never been.
It's fantastic.
I've never been.
It's
Okay.
fantastic. Actually, I've been.
When are you going back?
7th to the 11th of October. It's going to be my first trip back on the market after I would say more than a year now.
I think I'm coming with you.
Yeah, and I would say.
Which cities are you going to visit?
So I'll be in Amsterdam, of course. I'll be in Utrecht. I'll be in Haarlem. That's what I was thinking of. Haarlem is gorgeous. Is so beautiful. It's unbelievable. So I'll be visiting those markets, but I'm ready to come wherever is needed.
It's not like Holland is huge. That you'd have to fly
Yeah,
from one
exactly. The
city to
restaurant I
another.
was-
You can walk from
restaurant I was
Amsterdam to
talking
Utrecht.
about- The restaurant I was talking about is between Amsterdam actually and Den Haag. It's at the North Sea coast. Very nice place. It's like 25 minutes away from Amsterdam.
I'm coming.
What's the name, if I may ask you?
Salt. 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 You can
Okay.
Google it.
Okay, I will absolutely.
Yelena, get in touch with us. We'll set that up for sure. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I was looking for his Instagram, but there are quite some Matthias Keller. So Wayne, maybe I will try them
Mattia
via.
_Keller with a K and 2 L's.
Okay.
So before we move on, Rosella, I wanted to get to your question as well. I just want to let everybody know that just to be contrary to everything, we're drinking actually the Scarbolo Friulano right now. I love Friulano. It's a shame that Heather isn't here because she's like this woman, Heather, who always comes to listen to the Clubhouse. She's literally putting together a blog where she's going to taste like 47 different Friulani, which is amazing. And she's just getting into Friulian wines now. So hopefully she'll also get a hold of yours. But we all agree here in the studio that the Friulano is awesome. Robbie, spettacolo, no? Bellissimo, buonissimo. No, really, very good stuff. Rosella, did you have a question for Mattia?
Hello.
Hi,
Not
Rosella.
actually. Hi, hello. Not actually, because I joined late the conversation. I was just only curious because I've heard first about this kind of wines thanks to the book Knowing the Invisible, and so I'm quite intrigued about this kind of opportunity. So I was just quite interested in listening to what you are saying. This is basically why I joined.
Well, thank you, Rosella. Yeah, we had a great session with Ben Little, and I'm glad that turned you on to La Taverna, and I hope to see you here often, every week. So thank
Sure.
you for coming in.
Yes, if I see you, if I
Yes.
remember to switch on the phone,
Yes.
I will be more than happy to join you. But for the time being, I just listen in case I will put my question later.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, if you have a question, just jump right in.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to talk, we're talking about Pinot Grigio and we're talking about Scarbolo, and even though we're drinking the Friulano, I wanted to talk about this article that came out in the Wall Street Journal about you guys and about Pinot Grigio. Tell us a little bit about that. Was a huge thing.
Yeah.
So was it Letty Teague?
Letty Teague.
Yeah, she's a great journalist. Yeah, I've known her for a long time. Not super personally, but I met her a long time ago. So, tell us, what was the article about? I don't want to spoil it. I want you to tell the story.
So, so part of my job is, this is going to sound bad, but bear with me. Part of my job is harassing people.
Well, that's what marketing is.
Yes, and in particular journalists. So I did try to speak with Letty and send her our samples, the way you're supposed to do and bring the word out. And she gave me one of the most beautiful answers and the ones that I really respect. Because sometimes I think in every industry where you don't sell a commodity, there is, let's say, mutual interests that develop that go beyond the pure quality of something, okay? And that's where the subject is going to end unless somebody wants to delve down deeper on that. But so the reason why I really respected Letty's answer when I said, "Hey, I'm distributed in the US. We would love for you to try our wines. Can we send them to you to the Wall Street Journal?" She said, "Mattia, thank you very much. I appreciate your reach out, but my policy is to not get samples from winemakers. I buy the wines myself in the stores with the Wall Street Journal budget, of course." And then if I see something worth reviewing, I publish. So that was amazing because it puts such a degree of honesty and it really, let's say, I don't want to say eliminates. I like to think it eliminates, but let's be less polarizing. It really slims down the possibility of how do you say, collusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
okay. So washing each other's hands.
Exactly. Yeah, you do for me, I do for you. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Okay.
So this was a couple of years ago, and then of course I didn't send anything. And a few weeks ago, she reached out, said, I'm going to write an article about Pinot Grigio. I tried yours, and I would like to feature it. I was like, thank you, amazing. So she asked me a lot of questions. It was, of course, the luckiest moment for me because I could have the chance to speak about what we do beyond what's on the label or beyond what's on the website. And that also lets you think, especially when you don't travel or when you don't have a huge name that people are willing to meet you, like Mr. Antinori goes to New York, of course, everybody's going to want to see him.
Of course, or Mr. Gaia.
Yeah, exactly. Mattia Scarbolo goes but so it allowed us to have this chance to speak about what we do. And then she released the article, and it was an article speaking about Pinot Grigio with character, which is very much aligned to our thinking and what we're trying to challenge. So the lack of character in Pinot Grigio. And she picked, she went to stores in New York and New Jersey. She picked down her criteria. So it was meant to be single varietal 2019, 2020 Pinot Grigios from northeastern Italy. And she mentioned our Pinot Grigio among her favorite 5. And actually, more than that, what really rocked our world was that she said, I like the Scarbolo Pinot Grigio enough that I went back and I bought 3 more bottles on my own for myself. And it was like
huge.
Rock and roll.
Was this the contemporary Pinot Grigio? Okay.
Yeah.
That's huge because, it means that even in that contemporary style, you guys are standing out. So it's not just the fact that you're bringing Pinot Grigio to another level, But even in that contemporary style, which is that fresh white style, you're a level up. Yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying. I don't know, but a level up, but not because because we're putting some effort into doing what we think can be done better. Try and say, hey, how can I do this better today than I did yesterday, and what is the best expression? And this is what actually I was talking with Melania, the sommelier,
in London,
the representation of a terroir. This is what I constantly think of. There was this master class in Friuli the other day about the expressions of Sauvignon in the 5 different main appellations of Friuli. And unfortunately, I think also because of the wineries that were picked, there was some politics behind it, but that's where it's going to stop. I don't think it was the most representative of the appellation. But even then you say like, okay, how can I, on my little world of the 170,000 bottles we do, and speak about my terroir, how can I do my part to communicate about... We don't have Willy Wonka in the winery. We have, it's like that's not like the Oompa Loompas doing
the work.
shit.
Yeah,
it's like we have the same soil, the same grapes, the same techniques that are available to everyone. Luckily, there are people that align with us in. I like to think expressing what we believe is a fairer interpretation of a variety in a terroir. And there are many other winemakers that do the same. I think what we miss as a region is aligning more on delivering a higher perceived value than instead of following the cheaper price, the cheaper option. Because there's once you start going down, once you start pursuing price and of course with prices associated lower quality, it's inevitable.
Yeah, of course.
There's no end to that. And you're going to lose no matter what. Because the moment you do 150 quintali, I always forget quintali in English.
Quintals?
Quintals, yeah, per hectare, then there's somebody else somewhere else in Europe that can do less. And they, be courageous. And I'm very happy that she appreciated the work of course, one of the historical wineries in Friuli, Jerman.
You're in the same article with Jerman.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Yeah. Big kudos to that. That's a big deal. Yeah, I think one of the things we're drinking Friulano, but we can talk about Pinot Grigio as well. One of the problems that I see very often in Friuli is that sometimes the winemakers don't believe in themselves or believe in the territory. So they're almost either afraid to kind of push a little harder towards quality and ask more for their wines, pursuing market share through lower prices. And I think that's a shame because I think the quality here deserves, I went to Alsace a couple of weeks ago and their wines are super expensive, and it's not that they're not suffering, but nobody there thinks that their wines are worth $5 a bottle. Nobody. There's no cheap Alsatian wine. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the same mindset that we have to have here too, is there shouldn't be any, $10 a bottle, for a Magnum Pinot Grigio coming out of Friuli. So we need to be courageous and believe in ourselves as a region.
But especially because we have so many examples in Friuli of people that let's talk about business, because at the end of the day, if you set up a company where you have people working for you, it is a business. It has to be for a profit. It has to be successful. Let's say that way.
Yeah, you got to make money.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's a passion, which is perfectly fair. But what is when you look at the history of Friuli, you think of all these people that made it, that were successful, and that's why I was explaining the word. They were radical people that have a radical vision and that they pushed through it. They didn't settle for anything but what was their ideal. And it should make us think. That's why Lara and I said, hey, other people did what they believed, they stood by it, and they either made it or broke it. And you look at Schiopetto, like 100, like completely new way of making wine. Gravner, when he went from super clean white wines to back to the roots. And you can continue on and on and on. Say like, if you do it right, there's a chance you're going to leave a mark. Why not give it a try? Why settle for just like being like a flag that whichever wind blows, you go in that direction? Who are you then? You know?
I agree totally. That's really important, and I think that's one of the things that we see here in Friuli is they sort of say, "Oh wait, look, Ribolla Gialla. Let's everybody's got to do Ribolla Gialla now." Okay, it was and it's not that I'm slagging off on Ribolla Gialla. I mean, some of Ribolla Giallas are fantastic, but it's sort of like and if you were to talk about 20 years ago, it would have been Pinot Grigio everywhere, and then everybody tried to push Friulano, and that didn't kind of work. And then Sauvignon came along, so we need to sort Pinot Nero, yeah.
Now I'm sorry to say, but man, like,
it's
why do we want to ride on Pinot Nero? Like,
oh, come on,
we have other tools. Let's say other tools, because I'm like other tools to communicate what we do. Why do we have to follow either Alto Adige or Burgundy? Like, that's their thing. And if you do Pinot Nero, do it your way, in a way that speaks about your terroir, speaks about your region. Not just like you said with the Ribolla Gialla. Like, man, come on. Like, there's no excitement there.
Yeah, but there are some people who make great Ribolla Gialla, and that's what they should do.
A certain way.
Exactly. And that's their thing, and they should always do that thing. Damian Podversich's Ribolla Gialla is amazing, and Ronchi di Ciala's Ribolla Gialla is amazing. I mean, they're good wines. There's no reason why they shouldn't make them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has to follow suit. And congratulations to you for actually having the foresight of saying, well, you know what, Ribolla Gialla is not our thing. Pinot Grigio is our thing, and that's what we're going to do. But yeah, Pinot Nero, I hope that somebody comes up with a great Pinot Nero, but it has to be like a niche thing. But we have Refosco, we have Schioppettino, we have such great wine, Tazzalenga, we have such great wines here. What do we need to like start tearing out these, local varieties and doing that? But anyway, we're at about an hour and 15 minutes now. So I think this is a really sort of good place to kind of wrap it up. Mattia, did you want to sort of close us out with anything here? I mean, the whole story of sort of saying not sort of going whichever way the wind blows, I think is prophetic. I think that's true. And I think it shows that you understand what's going on here.
I hope we're doing, it's a job. So a job, like I was saying before, it has to be sustainable in many ways and financially too. But when I look back to when I was working in the bank and making way more money than I make now it's a phase of restructuring too for a few things. We're investing a lot of money.
And you're building a new winery. That's amazing.
Yes.
So follow them to see sort of the progress there on social media.
Yeah, it's fun. But like when, I don't know, I think like when you do something you believe in, everything else falls in second place because you're happy. You wake up happy. And honesty is the most important thing. I think I look at trends in the wine, etc., and sometimes I see there's not as fast of a growing consumption compared to other categories. When you think, I'm not even gonna say anything about hard seltzer.
And you think that'll be like the new trend in Friuli, like hard seltzer Ribolla Gialla,
White Claw, so Friuli and White Claw,
Talone Bianco.
But like honesty is important because when you're honest with yourself, everything is easier. And people rely on you, and I don't know. I think you're giving back somehow. I think when you do the right thing, life is good.
I think that's great. My favorite ex-wife just came up on stage. I think she may have a question. Vanessa, did you have a question that you wanted to ask? Unmute yourself. Maybe not. Maybe she didn't. Vanessa, you got to take yourself off mute. Okay, well, There
Am
she
I
is.
there?
There she is. How you doing, Vanessa?
I'm okay.
I think you actually
very-
met Mattia when you came here in Friuli, like in 1999, and he was like
I did.
7. Yeah.
I did.
And a big pain in the ass.
You did. See, you did. You met my ex-wife when she came here, Mattia. A long time ago. I'm sure you don't remember because you were a fucking infant.
It was a pain in the ass. Yeah.
But you were an infant. You were like a
No,
kid.
you were okay. You were a little boy.
He was okay only because you didn't see him for that long. Did you have a question for Mattia, Vanessa?
Just a very, very quick question. Where in the New York City area are your wines sold?
Good question.
Yeah, so we've been present at Italy.
Okay.
For a long time, and when I think of restaurants, some of the, for example, Becco, Babbo restaurants.
All of the Bastianich.
Okay.
We're in all the Soho House and Chakotay's.
What about any places in New Jersey? Any wine shops in New Jersey?
Gary's wine.
Gary's. Okay. Out. What is it? Summit. Gary's. I think it's Gary's and Summit.
Okay.
They're huge, Vanessa. You should if you've never been to Gary's Wine and Summit, it's like Mecca for wine in New Jersey.
Oh, good. Okay.
But anything, if you don't find or anything, you can shoot a message or we connect directly, and I'm happy to give all the names that can help you find the wines.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, Vanessa. I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think this is I could call this a perfect podcast.
I thank
You've
you.
been great. Thank you. Thanks to Sue and Yelena and Rosella and Vanessa. Thanks for coming on up and asking that question. Do you have a website, obviously? Was it scarbolowines.com?
It's scarbolo.com.
Scarbolo.com. SCARBOLO.com. So definitely go and check them out. Thank you, Sue and Yelena and Rosella and Vanessa. Thank you, Natalie, who had to leave, unfortunately, earlier. And thank you for spending some time with us, those of you who are still here. And thank you also, Robbie, for being here always and making us sound beautiful.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I'm going to close the room.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Yelena. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Rosella. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Christine, for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you,
Grazie
Mattia.
mille. Thank
you are
you.
the man. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
Bye.
Grazie.
Thank you, both of you.
Good night, everybody. Hey, I want to thank everybody this evening for coming. Thank you for listening. I appreciate Natalie Benlolo, our co-host, Rob Milani, our sound guy. Follow me on La Taverna Friuli on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram at Wayne Grape. And you can find this awesome music on YouTube at Beat Ambassador. Finishes with an A.